Hello, my name is Lupita Murillo Tenen, and I would first like to thank you for sharing your work with me this month. I am a lover of images, and I welcome any opportunity to review interesting work. A little background on me. I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas, and began photographing when I was 9 years old. I asked my parents for a pink 110 millimeter camera. I'm sure many of you remember this tiny negative camera. I took some photography classes at my high school and then went to East Texas State University, now Texas A&M Commerce, to pursue a bachelor's degree in photography. I graduated in 1998 and then went to the University of North Texas to pursue a Master of Fine Arts in Photography. I graduated from there in 2001 and started teaching shortly after graduating. First as a one-year interim professor of photography at Texas A&M Commerce, and then I taught at Baylor University for 2 years. I have also taught as an adjunct at SMU, Richland College, and Eastfield College. I was hired as a full-time professor at Collin College in 2005, and I've been there ever since. My personal photography work deals with cultural issues stemming from my Mexican-American background. As you know, judging is a highly subjective process. I went through all of the images once, very quickly, to see what stood out among the rest. I like to teach my students about stopping power, and I asked myself, does that image have stopping power? We are constantly bombarded with images daily, and as a professor of photography, I have seen every image you can imagine. So I picked images that were more unique, perhaps some that I may not have seen attempted before, or ones that had unique compositions and beautiful design. I loved the theme of shadow play because it got you thinking about the light, which, as you know, is the essence of photography. Beginners category. Little forest. This image needs a focal point that is not the shadow. It is a little too ordinary. Think about what would make this image have stopping power for a viewer. Another one could have this is another one that could have benefited from black and white, but also consider using the rule of thirds to compose. This image seems to be dissected into two halves. Really make the little forest stand out more and change the camera angle, because that is what makes the image interesting, and it's getting a little bit lost. Ladder to riverbed. I like the shadow in this image, but the color of the rocks is distracting. I think this would definitely work better as a black and white image. That would make the shadow pop more, and the other elements would be less distracting. It seems too busy right now, and the focal point is lost. Happy hour. This is a little over-processed, and the composition needs a little work. The colors are out of whack. It would be more interesting if the photographer had made it a black and white image. Also, the glass in the foreground lacks focus, and perhaps moving the other half glass and the bottle out of the frame would be better, and then we would just see the shadows. More jellyfish. This image has an interesting composition, but the focus on the figure is a little off. I think it could be stronger if it were more in focus. And the light on his face seems a little posterized, and I think that's a little bit distracting. But, again, the composition is very interesting. Honorable mention goes to Divided Morning Light. I like the strong shadow in this image, especially the ones along the foreground. The frame is tilted, and I'm not sure that adds anything to the composition. I would have loved to see it straightened up and use the curve from the back of the frame. It seems to be hidden right now by the partial brick wall, but it's still a good image. Third place, Victorian shadow play. Good use of the light to create an interesting shadow on the wall of the house. It's definitely what makes the image interesting. I like the soft purple color. The chair, however, is a little tight on the edge. It does need a little breathing room. And the posts along the bottom are a little distracting, but at least they are out of focus. Second place, Balloon's Shadow. This image is a little humorous. It actually made me chuckle when I saw it. I love this enormous shadow that is taking over the space. It is such a unique way to view a balloon. The lighting is beautiful, and I love the smaller balloons that are in the distance. This is a nice composition. Beginners category. First place was awarded to The Love of Reading. This image has a strong and original composition. I think it fits the shadow play theme extremely well. I love the way you are playing with the shadow by creating the heart. The contrast and the shallow depth of field are terrific. This is an excellent example of the shadow play theme. Intermediate. Watching. The shadows on the forehead are actually distracting. They don't really add to the composition. Maybe trying a different time of day with longer shadows would make it stronger. At the parade. I like the idea of seeing the shadows of the onlookers, but the color of this image makes it look very ordinary. The people in the background are also distracting. Maybe using a lower angle so we only see the cattle's feet with the shadows. Maybe that would make it a little stronger. Photographers at a bridge in Cordoba. I love the light in this image. The subject is not as interesting. Maybe a straight-on composition would be better. The angle leaves this empty triangle of space in the foreground. Through fleeting shadow, prayers remain. I like the idea behind the image, but it doesn't come across very well. The shadow is not very prominent, and the shadow depth of field on one side of the beads is a little strange. Leaf. This is a cool leaf, but I didn't really see it fitting into the shadow play theme as much as some of the others. I do like the white background and the light that makes the texture stand out. It is a good image. Farms. I like to see the word farms on the gravel, but the shadow of the photographer or person standing next to it is a bit distracting. Perhaps it's because of the cropping. Tea tray set. The shadow is interesting, but I wish that there was more of it on the tea set. The texture on the tray is really nice. Icecapade Shadow Dancers. This image is great, except for the fact that it's a little bit too over-sharpened. It does have a very strong composition. There's just something that doesn't look quite right about it. Darkening at Dusk. This is another image that is mysterious and interesting, but the processing seems a bit strange. Chase. This image looks almost black and white, but I really like the little patch of green. There are some cool reflections near the bottom of the frame that could have been used a little bit better. I love the formal design and, of course, the light and shadow. Sunlight and shadows. I'm guessing that this is wood, but the color seems a little off. Perhaps it's because of the light, but I find it a bit distracting. Black and white would definitely work better for this image. I do love the zigzag lines. Shelf shadows. I like the shadows from the blinds, but I really find the cups or vases that are on the windowsill to be more interesting. I would like to see them moved onto the bookshelf. Right now they're a little bit too hidden, and their contrast serves as a focal point, so that's why I feel that moving them onto the bookshelf would make it a little bit stronger. Hidden. I like the mystery in this image, but I'm not a fan of the panoramic cropping. I would have preferred to see the black space around it. I think that would make it stronger. Into the darkness. Nice use of the light and the texture. There's nothing wrong with this image. I just responded more to some of the others. Puddle. This is a cool image. I really like the reflection. I think the rule of thirds could be stronger. I'm not sure about its position in the frame. Maybe with a little more space on the bottom left. Morning shadows. This is also a great use of the light. I love the way that the rays were captured, and I love the green on the lit tree. Very nice. Honorable mention, crystal glass. This image has a strong composition and the lighting is great. The highlights are a little bit blown out, but otherwise it's a great image. Honorable mention, eggshells. Great attention to the light and the texture of the cracked shells. I love the way that this image is composed. I don't think there's anything the photographer could do to make it stronger. Third place, love to read. Maybe I'm biased on these book images because I too love to read, but the composition and the lighting is very strong. I love the heart and I also love the red of the book. It just really makes it pop. Second place, carousel. This is a fun image. I love the funhouse mirror kind of look. It's whimsical and it's just plain fun to look at. I would love to have this image in my kids' room. First place goes to shadows on the patio with flowers. This is a strong, unique image that I think demonstrated the theme very well. The shadows stand out, but the unique part was adding the flowers. How clever. Advanced. Amanda's ghost. This image didn't really demonstrate the theme as well. I can see what the photographer was trying to do, but it doesn't really stand out. I guess the model was cut out of a different shot. The edges of the hair are very jagged, and the lighting on her makes her look too orange. Me and my shadows. This is a cute image. I like the two shadows. I would raise the contrast a little bit. I think the white is a little bit flat right now. Honorable mention, sand and shadows. This image is beautiful. Great shadows that make the dunes pop and good job capturing those clouds. I think it's a good example of a great landscape shot. Honorable mention, Rorschach foliage. This is a great image. I like the title and the cool texture that's on the wall. It's very abstract, but really pleasing to look at. Third place, casting from an ancient window. I love the long shadow on the floor, but it also has this little kiss of sunlight on the vase in the background that's really interesting and nice. This entire image shows really nice depth. I like the fact that we can look way back into the image. Second place, place to kiss. This image works well in black and white, and I think it fits well with the shadow play theme. I think it's fun. First place goes to On the Way to Work. This image stood out the most because of the beautiful quality of the light. It has a definite focal point, and many viewers are able to relate to the image. Great composition and subject placement. Master. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. This is a good image, but I don't really see how it fits into the theme of shadow play. Adobe Wall at Noon, Taos Pueblo. This image would be stronger if it were cropped to just show the wall with the shadows, or maybe photographing it from straight on. The angle leaves this empty space on the bottom right of the frame, and it also has a bit too much contrast. Who is that? This image also has a bit too much contrast, but I really like the shadow and the texture of the wood. I think showing less of the body would make it stronger. The cropping right now is just a little bit odd. Zigzag. I would crop the back wall and the foliage out of the image. The shadow and the rails are the most important elements, and the back wall distracts from it. Otherwise, it's a great image. Hangman. This is a fun image. It's simple, it's humorous. There is a long history of photographers shooting down to capture their shadows, but I like that this one uses the lamp, or the lamp post. Iron Gate. This one is a bit too oversaturated, and I wish the bottom right had a bit more space. The shadow is cut off, and I would like to see the whole planter and plant. It would just mean stepping back like a tiny bit. Aspen Shadow Play. This image seems a bit overexposed and the shadows are too blue. I do like what's going on with the shadows on the hill, but I wish they were sharper. Phantom Shadow. The composition seems heavy on the right. The bottom of the photo has a bit of camera shake, or it's fuzzy for another reason, but it's a little bit distracting. Shadow Racer. This image has an interesting angle. I love looking down from the top, bird's eye view, and I love this giant bike shadow, but it is a little bit underexposed. There are no true whites in the scene. Dreaming of a Winged Rebirth. I like this image, but it looks like it's too cut and pasted. The light on the building is a little bit too bright, and the lighting in the sky is really great, and I do like the composition. Honorable mention, Nested Thoughts 2. I love the spider-like shape and the multiple legs that are coming off of the subject, and the lighting is very beautiful. Get Out of the Sun. This is a nice image. I really love the way the tower is framed. The lighting is great. It works well as a black and white. I don't think there's anything you could have done to improve upon it. Honorable mention, Shadow with Shades. This is another fun image. I like the humor, the texture of the background, and the reflection that was captured in the sunglasses. Third place, Abstract Art on Steps. Another zigzag composition that works well. There's not much happening here, but the variety of lines, the thick and thin, it makes it an interesting composition that is pleasing to the eye. Second place, Zigzag. This one is a winner for making a toilet seat look amazing. Great job! I love the zigzag lines. Good choice to make it a black and white. Nice cropping. First place, Behind the Curtain. I love this image. Great use of shadows. It's dramatic and makes me wonder what's going on. I like the distortion of the body and the hand. I think it's a really strong demonstration of shadow play. Shadows on the patio with flowers. This image also is the best of show in my opinion, because of the fact that it is unique, it's clever, and it really shows the theme well. When you're talking about shadow play, I think this illustrates it perfect. Overall, I think the images that were submitted were interesting and had strong compositions. I had a really hard time assigning awards because there were several that are on the same level. So just because you did not receive an award, please don't think that your images were not worthy. There were so many worthy images. I especially enjoyed the ones that stood out as more unique, meaning that I had not seen something like it before. Again, since I teach beginning photography, I've seen thousands of images, and a lot of them tend to look the same, especially with beginners. It's the ones that are more thoughtful that I believe have stopping power. Good luck to everyone. I believe that you are all on the right track. I thoroughly enjoyed viewing your work, and I thank you for sharing it with me this month.